Hello and welcome to another episode of From Data to Dollars, a podcast about AI in business, in which we help you make sense of this rapidly changing, often exciting, and often bewildering world. I'm Gideon Lichfield, former editor-in-chief of MIT Technology Review and Wired.
And I'm Beinat, Global Head of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science for Prosus.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about e-commerce. And Euro, I have to tell you that at the moment, I hate e-commerce. I hate the experience of online shopping.
That's a good start.
What I mean is, I just feel overwhelmed by choice. So I went on a furniture website the other day. I was looking for a shoe rack, and I got 4,000 results. I went on Amazon to look for bookends, and I got lots of results that were basically identical, the same, seemed like the same product. So I feel like it takes me far too long to make decisions. I mean, when's the last time you actually enjoyed an online shopping experience?
Well, by and large, when you solve the problems that you mentioned now, right? So you mentioned the problem of choice, which is, on the one hand, this is phenomenal. You have the choice of all these options, right? Which in the past, or in any case in other settings, we didn't have. Clearly, what you really need is something which is specific for you, it's personalized, it meets your needs at that time, and it's very, very convenient. So your experience is very smooth. So what you describe now, it means that that experience was not the case, but this is exactly where e-commerce is going.
Okay, so it sounds like you're giving us a preview. I'm excited to talk to you about this because this is what Prosus is all about. It's all about e-commerce. So how is the online shopping experience going to change for us in the next few years?
So first, let me tell you a little bit more about what we mean with e-commerce at Prosus. So we serve about 2 billion consumers globally, from daily needs, order food online or grocery, to decisions that you make once in a lifetime, buying a house or, let's say, change job and everything in between. So that's what we normally consider e-commerce. What you have seen over the last 20 years, or maybe even a bit longer, is that the first big thing that e-commerce created is choice. Right? And now you mentioned that this is probably your liability. So initially, in any case, making tools, making products available online was a big thing. So that's how e-commerce started. The next thing to solve was obviously to make sure that you find what you need in the way that you need it. That's personalization. That's where data science, machine learning, and so on helped e-commerce in the last, let's say, 10, 15 years.
Right. So identifying your preferences about which products to buy.
You need to know that, because otherwise you have the problem of the infinite catalog. So if you have all the books of the world in a library without any order, you can't find anything. So you have the choice, but you still can't find anything. So you need to make sure that the tool guides you to what you need, right? So you need to know something about you, what the other shoppers have bought, and so on and so on. More or less, we are there now. So all e-commerce, you should expect this form of personalization and a lot of choice. Where is it going? We see the next is going to be about advising you, solving your problem. So instead of you going into a place to say, I need to buy this, that, and that, and specify it well, this is what I'm looking for in a sort of generic way. So maybe natural language and so on. And there is going some form of back and forth.
So in other words, my problem is I need to run a race next Thursday.
Yes.
Or I need to take my family on vacation somewhere.
That's something like this. So instead of, let's say, I want that pair of shoes with that size and I need that color and so on, I need to run, let's say, this race next week. And I know everything else. I know that for satisfying you, you have these 3 models that are probably going to be okay, right? So that's form of advice, for which you need to learn much more about the products, you need to learn much more about you and so on. Once you have that, the next step is, when you're satisfied with that and when this works well, the next one is going to delegate. Buy the shoes that I need for the race next week and deliver them tomorrow at my place. So this is a form of do it for me, agentic. This is where technology is going to take e-commerce.
Right. So we're going to have this kind of AI shopping concierge. You say, solve this problem for me, and it happens. How long before we have that?
It's happening now, in the sense that we are all developing along these directions. We are spending significant amount of energy technology development and so on to make that happen. But it will go gradually, right? So, and by the way, shopping concierge is going to be one part of the experience, right? So this is the delegation. But there are many other things. For instance, if you talk about real estate, for instance, right? This is something that has a completely different dimension. It's about imagining how a certain house will look like when you renovate it, figuring out what it takes to renovate and so on. So this not concierge is a generic term that works in some areas, but I think the e-commerce is going to go down this direction of making sure that the entire experience is going to be facilitated different type of products.
Right. So like a shopping concierge, if we go back to that idea, is obviously useful when you just have a problem to solve. Like you said, I need the running shoes. I need this replacement part for my radiator, something like that. But people like shopping. I mean, in a lot of cases, you want the experience of going and picking out products, making your own choices about the styles you like, and so on. How is that kind of shopping, what you might call user-led shopping rather than agent-led shopping, how is that going to evolve?
So the experience that you will enjoy is the experience where you have the freedom, right? So enjoying means that you choose how it works for you. So there won't be any tool that imposes you how to do that. And we see that already in practice now. So one of the developments that we are most interested in at this moment is to introduce natural language interfaces for our platforms. And what we notice is that sometimes people like to have this conversation, but some other times they just know exactly what they want and they go straight for that. So the mix of the two is going to be the experience that we believe is going to be more useful. Mm-hmm. So I don't expect that you're going to be cornered one way or the other. Mm-hmm. You're going to be free to choose how to handle this as you actually go. But all these things are going to be there available for you.
One way I can imagine this working actually is you say to the agent, I have this jacket. Maybe you send the link to the jacket, where you bought it. And you say, I want some suggestions for certain trousers that will go with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That would be a standard feature. It's sometimes it's called try it on. Sometimes it is called, let's say, visualizing the shopping experience. And it's relatively feasible already now. So we are not used to this, right? But every piece of technology is already there available. So whenever you buy some clothes, it will figure out whether that fits with other parts of your wardrobe, but also perhaps with the things that you want to do. You want to go running, you want to go to a party, something like this. So it will be hyper-contextualized. That's for sure the case. But it will be the same for furniture, right? So if you, before buying a piece of furniture, does it work here, right? If I remove this wall in a house, how will it look like? So all these things will be available for you so you can anticipate, imagine, what is going to be the effect of your purchase or your renovation in this case.
Yeah, you already talked a little bit about buying a house using AI. Do you think that eliminates real estate agents?
It will. So it's in all the situations, you will have different ways to finalize the process, right? So first of all, real estate agents that do not use these tools are going to be replaced by real estate agents that use these tools. And in many cases, you don't really need the real estate agent, right? So it might well be that the entire process, it is so streamlined that you trust sufficiently these tools to carry on the entire transaction until the end, until your bank transfer is made, that perhaps, you don't need that. I think the entire experience of spending your money for getting something that you need is going to be anticipatory. So we'll know before doing it how it will feel, how it look like, will it fit with me and so on, such a way that you can make a better choice.
Right. So you're less likely to have to return things, hopefully.
That's a big thing because returns are a very expensive part of e-commerce. So if you can limit that one, it's going to make a big difference from the commercial point of view.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about interfaces. So right now, most of your shopping experience is through a screen, whether it's your phone or your laptop or whatever. But there's already augmented reality experiences where you can hold up your phone in your room and say, show me the room with this armchair in this corner and see how it looks. So what else is going to evolve and come up in interface design?
Well, the first thing is conversational interfaces, which are the most obvious thing to do if you want, because large language models make it possible to understand language and translate it in, say, catalogs and so on. It is feasible now, and I think this is going to be the first wave of changes in e-commerce platforms. We experiment a lot. We have very good results in that, and we are thinking they're going to be the first, let's say, thing, which has an interesting feature, which is implicit in this. Instead of buying a shoe, you say, hey, listen, I need to go running. What should I take, right? So you don't ask for a product. You have to solve a problem. So I don't need to specify the solution. You just help me figure out what I need. So this is one. So you should expect this in the next year or so. You should expect this to become more or less standard in all the platforms, and definitely in our platforms. The next is going to be visual. You mentioned extended reality, and extended reality requires hardware, right? So, and there are many options for hardware out there. There is one particular type of hardware that I think is really, really promising, is the one that I'm wearing now. So I wear glasses, and that is the most natural place where to put additional features, additional electronics, additional intelligence to augment what I see. Now, that has been a very, very hard problem to solve for many years, and people have solved it with goggles and other type of objects. But glasses, if we can make glasses work for that, I think that is going to be the most interesting, radically new way of accessing e-commerce. So it means that everything that you look, you know what it is, you can possibly buy it by touching it.
You're just going to wander around with price tags hanging in front of your eyes all the time?
Listen, I mean, potentially you can. Then it's going to be a very interesting way to scare people away. So no, you're not going to have that, right? If you want to experiment, sure. But these are these sort of dystopian ways of looking at this, and they're never going to work and so on. It's going to be much subtler. It's going to be much more selective, but it is going to be available. And by the way, we are not even sure how to design these systems yet. There's going to be a lot of experimentation and a lot of trial and error before we find the right way. But it's a net new way of looking at the physical world, which definitely is going to have an impact on e-commerce.
Yeah. I have this sort of another dystopian vision I have of agent-led shopping is that it will kind of subtly and unconsciously drive us all to be making similar choices. Like, if you say to it, design me a living room and suggest different kinds of furniture and rugs and wallpaper to go in it, everyone will end up with similar styles, which is already happening thanks to IKEA. But how do we make sure that we're all maintaining our individuality?
Yes, you can imagine that. I think it's going to be the opposite, right? So I'm a terrible designer, right? So if I were to look at options for renovating house, I probably end up in doing something which is not really interesting or not ideal. So then I would generally ask an architect or a friend to help me do that. Imagine you have 10 of these architects available for you, and that can help you design, let's say, the new house, and they have different styles and so on. And then you pick one, right? So in fact, your creativity options increase. The problem we will have to solve how to tame that, because you get an infinite catalog of creations, right?
Yes, and you might make some terrible choices. You might say, I want like a Gothic living room with mid-century modern touches, and it'll look horrible.
You can make terrible choices anyway. So
Very true. Let's talk about the underlying technology a little bit. So obviously, e-commerce companies are already using AI in all sorts of ways to make recommendations and to personalize. How is the AI that companies are using in the future going to be different from the AI of today?
So I think it's useful to start with the 4 primitives. So the attributes that artificial intelligence will show in the next, let's say, very short time, maybe 3 years and so on. So you should you should assume that AI will, first of all, be able to handle content better than you and me, right? So everything which is unstructured content, which is documents, images, videos, and all these kind of things, it can make the connections between them. It can find out if a product is in one place or another. So it handles unstructured content better than me and you. Second, it tends to love terabytes of messy data, right? So we tend to hate that, but it tends to like it. So it can really have entire catalogs of an entire company in memory and make the connection between products and the way we consume that. So that's the second one. The third one, it will complete tasks for you. which is what we call agents. We'll use, let's say, understand what you want, break it down in pieces, and then just do it for you. And the last one, it actually talks like you and me, right? So it is a very natural way of interacting. It is through voice, it is maybe through images, through touch, and so on, or maybe actually what you see in your glasses. So if you look at these 4 primitives, then you can build the core of eCommerce Next. And the core is going to be based on 2 broad components. The first one, agents. Agents that learn the way we shop, that learn the characteristics of the products, and they are able to solve an entire process for you. So you ask for something, it is going to do it for you, right? Connecting the various things, payment, connecting search, connecting delivery, connecting various services. So that's agents. But to make agents work, you need what we call large commerce models. Large commerce models, it is what GPT is for language, a large commerce model is for commerce. So it understands all transactions, all products, and so on, and you can train agents on top of that. So underneath is not going to be just an API to a catalog. You're going to go through agents and large commerce models to make sure that you have this experience of eCommerce Next.
Can you talk about some examples of companies within the Prosus portfolio that are already starting to develop some of these tools and what they're using them for?
So I can give you one example, and it's for classifieds. Classifieds, OLX is our classifieds business. In OLX, people trade second-hand goods, but also cars, but also real estate, and so on. So there is a new product which we are testing at scale now with customers. It's called OLX Magic. And it is a conversational product, first of all. So you can start, you go to OLX and you have this new interface, which is not a list of things that you can buy. As you start chatting, right? In a sense, well, I'm looking for a present for my niece. And then you start the conversation. Oh, great, but so how old is your niece, right? Does she like dancing or is she more into sports and so on and so on? And as that conversation unfolds, you can start seeing things that potentially are useful to solve this. We call it problems, right? It's a beautiful thing to do, the present for your niece, right? And we go step by step. And we accompany the user until find what they want, and then we deliver it at home. So to be able to do that, you need to do many things. First of all, you need to have some form of large commerce models at the back that understand the data much better than you just imagine from a catalog. And the second, you need also to have a form of interaction that is sort of, I understand what you want. I break down this problem. I probably need to ask you this question, and then going to be something else, and so on. This is really early stage. So the direction is clear, but this is step 1. What we find is that people like it, right? So they really enjoy the experience. The conversion, that means the number of sales, tends to be higher than the traditional tools that we had before. And then, of course, we also found tons of things that need to be solved, right? There's a lot of technology innovation that needs to, let's say, be solved to make this happen. But the direction is very clear.
Are there any other companies out there in the world that you see doing really interesting, innovative things?
We see interesting things in travel, for instance. So travel, it's reserve a flight or an hotel and so on. Some of the companies that work in this domain have done already the leap from you want to book an hotel, then you can also probably want to have this experience, and maybe you need to go out, and maybe you want to go to the movies, many other things. So this is a way of looking at the ecosystem of things that you might want to do and combine them in something that, first of all, it makes your trip better. But second, you can also adapt as things go wrong, right? So if you have a delay, it means that your reservations have to change afterwards. So agents will take care of that, and they change the reservations and move them and cancel and so on. So travel is one of the places where some of these things happen already, and we are sort of looking with a lot of interest at that domain.
Yeah, because I can already go on a travel site like, TripAdvisor and say, I'm going to be in Madrid for 3 days. What should I see? And then you can get more specific and say, what should I see if I'm interested in contemporary art?
Sure.
So the next stage, I guess, is that it will also say, these are the museums you need to buy tickets for, and then it will go and reserve them for you.
That's for sure the case. And by the way, this is still very rudimentary in the sense that it picks up the most obvious things. It really becomes interesting when you say, well, interesting in modern art. Then you should look at this library that has this type of books. Yeah. And by the way, this artist has it's sort of showcasing some of these new things in that place. And those connections for you would be really hard to find. Yeah. But if I have an infinite catalog underneath, and if I can make sense of you, can I make sense of the catalog, I can really distill things that make this suggestion hyper-personalized and extremely valuable for you. And they're going to be completely different for somebody else.
Yeah. I have a question about sustainability. So that, there are already obvious concerns about the growing use of AI is going to require more data centers, more energy, and, that's going to have a climate impact. But I think with e-commerce specifically, there's a different sustainability question, which is already e-commerce is designed to get us to buy as much as possible. And the more that it can target recommendations to us well, the more it will get us to buy. And the future you're painting is one in which we have more shopping opportunities in just about any context and better targeting to help us to identify things that we're likely to buy. So are we just going to end up buying even more stuff that we don't need that is then going to go into landfills?
Well, you are the first responsible for that, right? So, the choice will always remain with the consumer. The options are going to be for sure more, right? So that's for sure the case. But I would not just put it in terms of you buy more things that you don't need. What we really see as the opportunity for growth and for making, let's say, this experience better, and of course to make successful companies that produce this experience, is the range of services around that. How can I give you the best experience, the experience that is most useful for you? You buy something, you might also need many other things around that one. So I have the protector for the leg, and I really want to find the physiotherapist and other, let's say, services around this. This is something that you need anyway. It's not that I'm adding something that you don't need. You need anyway, but you don't really have a good way to look at them. You don't really have a way to find them. So I make your life easier, and that's the focus. Of course, you probably end up also buying things that you don't need, but that remains your responsibility. Other thing which is important for us, our classified platforms, where we focus a lot of the energy and investments to create this e-commerce next, they serve to give goods a second life. So in fact, we extend the life of these products. By making this platform more accessible, more interesting, better experience, you expect them to be the place where people buy more. So you also have a side effect, which is the contrary, the opposite of what you say. And in fact, the environmental impact of these classified platforms is already measured, and it is significant in terms of emissions, in terms of goods reutilization.
Okay. What is your most surprising or weirdest prediction for the future of e-commerce?
I think I'm going to be surprised in many different ways, but there is one that it's already known now that it's possible, and it's going to be surprising because we don't really know exactly how it's going to be unfold. The idea that it's everything that you see, every platform where you have visuals, for instance, becomes an e-commerce platform. And that it's interesting because we don't know exactly how to handle that. It's interesting because we don't really know what is the right experience. How do we make something like this delightful, useful, not annoying, right? So when you have these glasses and you wear this glass, you can see everything and everything is shoppable. How is that, let's implement in such a way that it's really something that makes my life easier and doesn't clutter my life, right? So I think that is going to be surprising, but mostly because it is going to be extremely useful, but we don't know yet how to make that work.
Right, because I can imagine it would be very easy for that experience to get cluttered because of advertising, right? You put on your glasses and you look around and there are virtual billboards everywhere.
Yeah. So you have all these ways to make the experience. It's so, let's say, flexible and large in terms of opportunities that there is going to require discipline, design, intelligence to make it delightful.
Yeah. Probably people are going to pay to not see the virtual billboards.
There are going to be very different business models for that.
Euro, thank you so much. This has been another fascinating discussion. I'm looking forward to having less choice online and a better choice.
We are going to help for the second.
Okay.
Thank you.